I think we found out how people abstract and who is going to abstract. In the Amazing Digital Circus, your body isn't random, it's your flaws, the worst parts of you twisted and exaggerated until that's all you are. And when those flaws take over completely, you don't just break, you abstract. This isn't a glitch, it's the moment somebody loses everything that made them human. In this video, we're going to unravel how the circus turns flaws into forms and why one of the characters may already be closer to that fate than anyone realizes. Everyone once placed in the Amazing Digital Circus has characteristics which become physical, leading to them physically becoming a generalization of these aspects. Like how Ragatha is a ragdoll, specifically resembling the classic Raggedy Ann. A ragdoll is referred to as a soft child's toy made out of cloth in the shape of a person in the Cambridge Dictionary, and we've noted Ragatha to be quite soft, buckling under any kind of pressure from others. This can be seen in episode 5, Untitled. In this episode, the characters go on a variety of adventures picked from a suggestion box. During Zubal's adventure at a bar, Ragatha opens up to others about her life outside the circus. She states that she was born into a wealthy family on a farm, but going deeper into her home life, she states that her mother was a lot, and suggests her mother probably doesn't miss her while she's in the circus. She goes on to express how she was yelled at and put down by her mother, as well as the fact that she was often guilt-tripped by her.
I was born into a fairly wealthy family. We had a large property with horses and chickens, and my mother, my mother was a lot.
This, along with her constantly putting herself down, like later in episode 5 when she hits the ball directly to evil Pomni and she blames it on herself.
Can't believe I hit it right to her. I'm supposed to be better than that.
Paints a picture of an insecure person. She's often seen letting others push her down and letting others berate her to the point where she genuinely believes it herself. Her as a person shares a lot in common with her character in the circus. She is quite literally a rag doll, something to be thrown around and played with. This is a very clear tie between characters in the circus and their personality. This isn't just selective to Ragatha either, all the characters in the circus have these aspects. Gangle is another perfect example of this oversimplification of personalities manifesting in their physical appearances. Gangle's body consists of 2 masks, a comedy mask and a tragedy mask on a ribbon. The Greeks and Romans used to commonly use masks to portray the feelings of the characters in theater. They used hundreds of expressive masks to show emotions, but over time these were simplified down to 2 drastic and extreme forms, the comedy and tragedy masks we know today. The symbolism behind these 2 masks is the key to understanding Gangle's character. Gangle is often portrayed in 2 sides, the comedy mask form and the tragedy mask form. When Gangle puts on one of these masks, they become either extremely excited or extremely disturbed. This is shown best in episode 4, Fast Food Masquerade. In this episode, Gangle gets a mask from Zubal and puts it on, stating that
it feels normal.
But over time, Gangle's buttons keep being pressed, pushing Gangle and the mask to the edge. Gangle can be seen in the episode taking off the mask Zubal gave them to show that they had their tragedy mask on all along, showing it quite in a literal sense how they have been masking throughout the entire adventure. They finally let their extreme sadness side show towards the end of the episode when Gangle can be seen taking off the mask that Zubal gave them, throwing it across the parking lot. They then dance in their high emotion state, leading to them being hit by a car. All this can be attributed to bipolar disorder, something that this character likely faces in the real world outside of the circus. Bipolar disorder is often characterized by emotional highs and extreme lows. These are often referred to as mania and depression. In the episode, Gangle even outright says,
"It's called a manic episode, and you're getting 3 more seasons." Anyway.
It is possible that the actual person behind Gangle in the real life has this diagnosis and struggles with it on a deep personal level to the point where it is their very characteristic in the circus. But what do these oversimplifications mean when it comes to abstraction though? In order to fully understand this puzzle, we need another piece to it. This piece lies in the very definition of the word abstraction. Merriam-Webster defines the word abstraction as the absence of mind or preoccupation, often relating it to the definition of the word abstract. For something to be abstract means for it to become detached from something rooted in reality. Kind of like how abstract idea is often not a concrete item but a feeling. Or how abstract art is not rooted in physically recognizable items but in the feelings you get as a viewer. Given this context, along with the fact that these characters' whole look is based on their personalities, and abstraction is tied to the appearance of these characters, I believe to some degree abstraction is tied to their personalities. When somebody in the circus abstracts, their physical form changes into a large black animalistic figure with many eyes. Every character we've seen this far that's abstracted has looked the same, all changing entirely from what the character originally looked like. They lose their individuality and lose their roots, tying them down to reality and become monsters. Therefore, abstracting. I believe what leads to this is the characters feeding into their tropes, feeding into the idea of oversimplification of the characters and therefore losing themselves in the process. They lose the few things that keep them grounded in reality outside of the circus, and that's their sense of self. Becoming this character that they aren't leads their character into becoming an abstract form of themselves, not characterized by their personalities in reality, but by a concept. Much like how an idea is considered abstract if it's more of a concept rather than something grounded in a physical being. To some degree, Jack's unknowingly feeding into the very thing that causes others to abstract, and that is him feeding into this characterization of these people that are in the circus. We can see him in episode 6, They All Get Guns, feeding into this villain that the circus wants him to be.
What's your archetype then? The villain?
Listen, I add a key dynamic. I see how far I can push things, I screw with people, and I break the fourth wall.
And encouraging Pomni to do the same for the sake of the adventure. Ragatha even outright confronts him about this, saying,
I know exactly what you're doing with Pomni, and it'll never work.
Jax's playful tone in the adventure breaks when he asks her, huh? Inviting her to delve deeper into the theory. Ragatha goes further, trying to say that he's trying to get close to Pomni to corrupt her. After his gun literally backfires onto him, he respawns, shooting Ragatha multiple times while panting until his gun runs out of ammo. She only had 1 life left, so this just wasn't making sure he got her. This was him losing his temper and taking out his frustrations in the moment. I don't think Jax is intentionally trying to abstract the characters, but he is for sure trying to corrupt them to add to the chaos of the circus, furthering his villain trope. Pomni even calls this out in episode 6, saying,
Have you ever thought that this might be what causes people to abstract in the first place?
I think Pomni is on the right track for the wrong reasons. I believe Jackson to some degree is responsible for the abstraction of others, but not for the reason Pomni is placing on him here. He's constantly feeding into this character's tropes, especially for the villain archetype. I think the only reason he hasn't abstracted at this point is because he still currently holds on to some of that guilt from the abstractions of others like Kaufmo and Ribbit, rooting him in reality outside of the circus. If Jax continues to go down this road of becoming the villain to the characters around him, I believe it will lead to his abstraction in the end. He will lose the very thing that keeps him human and tied down to reality, and that's his emotion and memories, becoming an abstract form himself. In the Amazing Digital Circus, flaws are amplified until they consume everything else. Ragatha is pushed around like a rag doll, Gangle is pulled between extremes, and Jax toys with detachment, each of them walking a thinner line than they realize. We've already seen what happens when those flaws spiral out of control. The person disappears and only the monster remains. The circus has taken others before, and if it keeps going this way, it's only a matter of time before it takes them too. Alright guys, thank you for watching. I can't take any of the credit for this script. My good friend made it. I'm gonna put their handle here or whatever they want plugged on screen because they never added anything for me to say. I definitely think she might have solved abstraction. And yeah, Jax is probably next. Maybe. I don't know. See you next video, guys.
Like, comment, subscribe.